Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we bring up people and organizations in town that make Tinley Park really a great place in which to live. And as we all know, Tinley Park is probably one of the greatest places in which to live. There's so much to see and do down here. My name's Ron Centanni. I'll be your host tonight, and we got some special guests tonight from people that hopefully you really need to know in town who are doing some fantastic things with the village. Hope you enjoyed it, had a chance to come out to the September 11th observance last month. It was quite an operation, quite an observance of a pretty important day in our history, and things really went well. So the village does a lot of fantastic things like that to celebrate, observe, and commemorate people and organizations in town. Some of the people in town here that do work with the village very closely are trustees, and we'd like to continue tonight getting to meet some of our trustees in town, getting to know who they are and maybe a different side of them that you didn't know about before they came on board. First guest tonight is the elder statesman of the Tinley Park Board of Trustees, Dave Seaman. Dave, welcome to Discover Tinley.
Thank you. I think, Ron. Senior in tenure, but yes, fortunately not senior in age.
Thank you. Yeah, how long have you been on the board now?
Actually, I was first appointed in 1984, so that puts it at about 27 years. Elected in 85 and ever since, so it's been a good long run.
A glutton for punishment.
Some would say that.
Yeah. How did you first get started in village politics or village board stuff?
Probably not unlike you. I was on the Health Services Commission at the time and worked on that for quite a while. I believe I joined that in about 1979, moved into Tinley Park in 1976, right when Rosemary and I got married. And she had actually been born in Tinley Park, so it was kind of a coming home because she had migrated to the city. I was born and raised in Chicago, and then we met in a carpool, and then we basically decided to get married and looked for our first home and ended up in Tinley Park.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't. She grew up in Tinley Park?
Yep, went to St. George.
Oh, my.
Everything else. So,
where'd she go to high school?
She actually had moved back to the city by then, so she was at Lourdes for high school.
Oh wow! So you've been out here since you're 76 then, huh?
Since 76.
Wow, good tenure, good lifetime out here in Tinley Park.
And how? Well, that and raising 3 kids.
What made you think about even volunteering for the Health Services Commission?
Well, back in the day, there was a gentleman named Ed Hogan, who you may remember, that was very involved in village affairs and with the Health Services Commission. He and I worked together at Cook County Hospital. So he lived in Brementown. I lived at Oak Village at the time in the condos there. And we talked about it at breakfast in the morning at Cook County. And then he said, well, why don't you come and, join the commission? So the rest is history.
We say yes and we don't know how to say no from then on.
You're right about that. You're so right about that.
Wow. So it's been a pretty good tenure all the time. Now, let's go a little bit about, you said the Health Service Commission, your background now. What trustees it's not a full-time job, obviously, but sometimes it probably seems like a full-time job. What is your profession outside of the Village of Tinley Park trustee position there?
My day job is Chief Executive Officer at Smith Medical Care. So we have our offices both here in Tinley Park as well as one in Blue Island. And I've been fortunate enough to be there for about 15 years. So I've had the chance to actually bring Smith to Tinley Park, so to speak, because our building on LaGrange Road was initially built in the year 2000, and then we just finished the expansion at the end of last year. So we feel pretty fortunate about being able to see the group grow and essentially join the medical mile, which is now LaGrange Road. That's probably turned into quite the place for healthcare these days.
Yeah, it seems like there's several buildings on there. I didn't know it was getting to be a medical mile down there, but it seems to be several buildings going up there. But yeah, Smith has really expanded quite a bit over there.
Have a lot of new services, which is really nice to be able to give patients the range of physical therapy, MRI, CT. Sleep lab actually is just opened up as well. So it's new services, on-site endoscopy. So when you need your next colonoscopy, Ron, you know where to go.
Oh, come on with it. No, let's hold there for a while. Trustee, now, what is your vision of what a trustee is supposed to be doing. What kind of things are you handling on the board right now as trustee that are really significant?
I chair Finance and Economic Development right now, Ron, and it's increasingly important, I think, as we go through difficult financial times, because the hardest part that are facing us right now, the hard decisions really relate to how do you do what you've been doing, how do you maintain the level and quality of services to your citizens with a lot of financial constraints put upon you. We're seeing decreases in funding from the state. We're seeing decreases in funding of our motor fuel tax, once again another source from the state. So it's taking its toll on our reserves that we've been fortunate enough not to have to really dip very deeply into. So we've weathered the storm well so far. We're hoping that we'll continue to do as well in the future. It's hard to be overly optimistic right now from a financial perspective because you don't want to put yourself in a position of overcommitting. But we've been fortunate enough to have enough staff attrition where we've been able to hold our own financially and be able to hold off on projects that we needed to hold off on. And we've been fortunate enough to have some growth in businesses as well. So the combination of all things considered is basically, as the old adage goes, we're doing good for the shape we're in. You know?
Okay, good.
So
Wow.
for the environment, I'm very pleased with where we're at. But it's been due to a lot of work, a lot of staff work, a lot of board teamwork. I think you have a village government that's truly committed to working together and working for solutions, not to create problems. So we try to solve problems every day. A little bit of a change.
Sounds like it. Well, obviously it's a testimony to what you all have been doing, because if we are running that well and keeping in the black and doing our services, something must be going right. So
A lot of good planning for a lot of years. It'd be great to say, you know, that one person at one time can take credit for it, but it's probably been a board that's been working hard at this for probably the last 40 years that has really planned for the future, and really they deserve the credit for those that have preceded us for, I think, leaving us in the shape we're in, and hopefully we'll be able to leave as good a legacy for those that follow us.
do you have any vision for what you would like to see in Tinley Park in the next 10, 20 years? Or what kind of forward-looking things are we possibly even thinking about?
Well, I think that the legacy plan that was recently passed by the village board, which really redefines Oak Park Avenue and how we see downtown Tinley begin to form and take shape and pretty much be a brand for the community, is what is our initial focus now. The challenge is the economy that is such a problem that it's very difficult to really get the kind of economic development, the kind of redevelopment going on that's really necessary to have that rebirth of Oak Park Avenue that we think is the next step. So I'm not sure that things will happen as quickly as any of us would like, but we're still hoping that the core, that the fundamentals are still in place and that we'll be able to do well now and in the future.
Yeah, well, it's quite an ambitious plan you've got there. So,
well, a mixed, lot more dense residential is planned, some mixed-use residential with business. We think that by concentrating the housing to the core of Tinley and the business to the core, as opposed to spreading it out down Oak Park Avenue as it is now, will in the long run help to build a real focal point, which would be the train station and the true downtown Tinley area. So that's our dream and our aspiration, and hopefully with a little help from the economy that will help, and we'll be able to make these things happen.
Beautiful. How do you see your role as a trustee? What kind of philosophy do you bring to the position of trustee of Tinley Park?
Well, I think everybody that's on the board brings a certain set of skill sets, a certain talents. I've been in the financial area since graduating from college, so I'm an MBA CPA by pedigree, so to speak. So I think that's an aspect that I bring. I think that the board as a whole brings all sorts of different skill sets, different experiences, and that's really what I think has made it rich, because it's a blended vision. It's not my view of the future, it's not the mayor's view of the future, it's the view we'd
Collectively,
like
yeah.
to say the view of the people of Tinley Park's future. So we think that by working on it together, we come up with better solutions and better opportunities.
Yeah. What do you think makes Tinley Park exceptional? Kind of getting a viewpoint, everybody. What makes Tinley Park special? Why is it a pretty neat town in which to live in, do you think?
It's the people. There's just no doubt in my mind. For those of us that have had to run for election, gone door to door, sometimes in our community and sometimes in other communities, it truly is the people. The people are very kind. They've been exceptionally supportive of our board. They've seen us through for the long term. I think when there's doubt in their minds, they give us the benefit of the doubt, which is, I think, a huge perhaps disconnect from today's state and perhaps federal governments, where there's such doubt and such concern that there are hidden agendas. There's no partisanship on our village board. We work together. We, I think, do a good job working together.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, it's very good. Yeah. Talk a bit about your, people that may not know your other hat. You have a third hat that you've had in the ring for a few years. Besides being a CEO of a corporation and a village trustee, your third hat was with the military. Can you talk a bit about what your, I think it's pretty special because you've been for quite a long time. Talk a little bit about what your experiences were with that and what you were doing with that.
I just retired from the Illinois Air National Guard Air Force back in November, and that was after 39 years of both enlisted and officer experience. I retired as a colonel. So I had the opportunity to do what most people in the Air Force do, which is train at Lackland Air Force Base for basic training, and then ultimately go on to officer school after I had made Master Sergeant and started all over again with the butter bars, as you recall, Ron,
Yes.
as the second lieutenant.
Yes.
And did that for the balance of my officer's career. I had the chance to be up at O'Hare when the 126th Air Refueling Wing was there. That's where I started. And then when they moved down to Scott Air Force Base, followed the unit down to Scott, and eventually ended up at headquarters down at Camp Lincoln in Springfield for the balance of my career. So,
what was your position there? What did you end up as your role, your position?
I was Director of Communications and Information for the state, the J6. So it was interesting times, especially as deployments and other circumstances occurred where our units were being called more frequently into active duty roles. So it's been a lot of fun and been
Fun, okay.
it was an enjoyable career, and it was time to turn that page, close that chapter, and then start to spend some time at home.
I was trying to think. Yeah, talk about your family now. Who's in your family? And
well, Rosemary, my wife, of close to 35 years right now, and our oldest is Tony, who's a Columbia graduate, a Marist graduate, of course. Marion, I'm sorry.
Well, we'll edit that.
Stanby.
Okay.
And we basically, he's doing Navigant Consulting right now and living in the city of Chicago. Rachel, my daughter, is, of course, a MBA CPA, and so she's doing well, working for McGladrey. And Christopher, the youngest, who is right now looking for a job. So if there's any IT position open that you're aware of, he'd be more than happy to look. He came out of the DePaul University, so he's unfortunately, like a lot of young grads, are having a difficult time. So hopefully, once again, part of the economy equation that we're dealing with.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Well, you've done a fantastic job. I'll be really honest, done a fantastic job all these years. I think the board has been lucky to have you on the board there. So,
well, thank you, Ron.
Thanks for your expertise and your interest in Tinley Park, and for all the years you put in, and hopefully a few more to go on that, and making Tinley Park an even better place in which to live.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so very much.
Trustee Dave Seaman, who's been on the board for a good number of years and hopefully a few more. Well, our second guest is another one of our trustees, and we went from the most senior trustee to the newest trustee on Tinley Park Board of Trustees, T.J. Grady. Welcome to Discover Tinley.
Thanks, Ron.
You are the newest, right?
I am, yes.
The rookie, huh?
The brand new one.
The brand new one there.
Still learning how to handle myself.
Now, when did you were appointed, what, last year or something?
December 2nd of last year, yes.
Okay.
And then in April, had the opportunity to run in the first election to complete the 2-year term, and ran unopposed, which I guess was probably a good thing the first time out of the box. But
Yeah.
so I have 2 more years to serve, and then we get to see it all over again.
Wow. Had you ever thought about being on a board of trustees at all?
A number of years ago, I was approached by a couple of people that asked me to consider running back then because of some things that were going on, and so I had some discussions with some of the current trustees at the time, Mike Benthausen being one of them, and he kind of gave me some ideas, and at that point I kind of backed off, and so when the opportunity presented itself after I had retired, I decided to give it a shot, and it's worked out real well.
Let's back up a second now. You retired, then let's go into what you're kind of an old hand at Tinley Park, right? What were you doing before this trustee thing?
Well, I've been in the community over 30 years now. I was hired in 1980 as a patrol officer and served 30 years, retiring in June of last year as a sergeant, and served 30 years on the police department. Great experience. I wouldn't second guess it for a moment.
Well, we could probably spend a whole show on stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to bore people.
No, I'm not sure if those are exciting.
Yeah.
But how do you think that plays a role in your position as trustee now? How do you think that's been going to be of value to that?
Well, the opportunities through those years to meet different people and get to hear some of the complaints they might have, just talking to them if they had an incident where they may have been a victim of a crime or they might have been involved in a car crash, they could kind of relate to me, and you got to hear perspectives of the folks that live in town. And because we lived in town also, we got an opportunity to see how things were, and then I was able to become involved with the Human Resource Commission back in the day when I was teaching there, and so I had an opportunity to see how the community functioned from the other side of law enforcement, and I was really interested in getting involved at that point.
Wow! So you've been quite a stint in that. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago Heights.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to Marian Catholic.
Okay.
Great school.
Okay.
And when the opportunity came after I had started college and wanted to get into law enforcement, my grandfather was a Chicago police officer. I took the test out here and was fortunate enough to make it the first time around, and it worked out real well.
So this was your first job as a police officer?
As a police officer, first and only.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty. That's pretty steady.
Yeah, I was very fortunate.
Yeah. Now, when did you move to Tinley? How long? So how long?
In 1980, I moved into town as required by ordinance, and my wife and my wife for 30 years, and I bought a house and have progressed and have been in the house that we're in now almost 23 years.
Wow.
So.
And what the rest of your family? Who else is in your
I have
family?
3 grown children. The youngest is a senior at the University of Illinois. All 3 of them are graduates of the University of Illinois.
Wow.
My daughter came back to the community, and she's a guidance counselor at Tinley Park High School. And then my daughter Kelly and my next son Sean graduated from U of I 2 years ago now. Can't find a job in his field, but he's a general manager of a restaurant down in the Champaign area, and still trying to find a job in his field. And then, as I mentioned, James is a senior at the University of Illinois.
Wow. Well, you've done a pretty good job so
Absolutely.
far with all the kids.
Yeah.
You like Tinley, huh?
Yes,
what
sir.
makes Tinley Park special? What have you seen at Tinley Park that's made it so special or makes it a very special community where to live?
Well, the opportunity for anybody who really wants to be involved in the community through the commissions, and I had the opportunity, as I said back in the day, to work with you on the Human Resource Commission and now the CRC. But they could come out and they can get involved in the commissions if they really want, and they get an opportunity to put some time in to help shape some of the things that are going on, some of the events that are taking place in the town. And I think because of that philosophy that the village has, the people that live in this town have an opportunity to shape how things are being done.
Yeah, Tinley Park is noted for a lot of the volunteer activities and
Absolutely.
things like that. Now, you oversee what commissions? What commissions?
I have the building department that I oversee, and then any of the code enforcements that are being taken place. Those people are responsible. I'm responsible to see that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay, well, hopefully they're doing okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What's been your experience so far with the board now? What kinds of things can you point to that have been pretty outstanding in your mind that's going on so far? And what do you personally see as a vision for the future from a village board point of view?
Well, everything is based on being run on the economy, and the one thing I've noticed through the years, being involved on the police end of it, is the way they can balance the budget, and they always operate in the black, which in this day and age says an awful lot. I think the opportunity for growth within the community is kind of shut off at this point because we're kind of blocked in, but the fact that they have been so economically sound through the years, I think bodes well for the future for Tinley Park, and the fact the way they're so fiscally sound, I think is good for the citizens of Tinley Park.
Wow. What do you think our priorities should be as far as what should happen in town?
I think keeping up with any of the infrastructure, we have a great pavement management program that they stay on top of. I don't think any of the roads that we maintain here have any concerns that people might have. I think keeping the balanced budget going forward, and being able to maintain the fact that we did not have to lay off any employees during these tough economic times. I think all those things signal positive things for us as we move forward.
Wow. Take us through a typical maybe week or a few weeks of a village trustee in terms of what you have to go through and some of the hours you've got to spend and what kind of things you discuss in a typical, say, few weeks or month.
Well, at any given point, we can get a phone call from somebody who might have a question, whether it's a staff member about something that may be coming up. And last night we had a board meeting, and then we had some committee meetings beforehand. You have to prepare for all of those. Every Friday we get delivered to our homes the agenda for the next week's meetings and anything coming up down the future. We have 8 weeks of schedules that are constantly updated and brought to our attention. So you can try and stay ahead of all the events that are coming up. We have the parade coming up this weekend for 9/11. So there's a number of things that you have to stay on top of. You have to answer emails, make appearances. I was involved with my first ribbon cutting for the grand opening of the Jewel last week. So it varies, and that's the one nice thing about the job is it's never the same all the time, and the opportunities to do different things are always coming up.
Wow. You were talking before the show about relations with other communities. What other communities do you kind of keep in touch with and share some things with?
We did an exchange recently with a city just outside of Detroit called Novi, Michigan. They have a lot of the same demographics that we do here. Population's almost exactly the same. And we went up there, and the members of the board and staff went up there and got to see how they operated and some of the things that they bring and some of the things that they offer, and took some very interesting concepts away from that we're going to try and implement here. And then they in turn sent their staff members and their elected officials down here and got to spend a day in the life of Tinley Park and see how we do things down here. So it's a nice way to build relationships with cities that aren't even in the state. So.
Well, there's always things you can learn from other people.
Absolutely.
And also that they can learn from us.
Sure.
Tinley Park it's a pretty ongoing good community to
yeah,
learn from. So I'm sure some of those are
it.
trying to grab things from you guys and see, what do you guys do in Tinley Park that makes it so good. Anything you can see in the future for Tinley Park that stands in your mind as a project that's going on now that we should be looking for?
Well, the convention center, the grand opening, the addition to the convention center is a week from tonight. And so we're looking forward to that. I think that's going to bring so many opportunities for people from across the country to come and visit Tinley Park and see what we have to offer. Just the new train station on 80th Avenue is taking shape. I think that's going to be beautiful when it's all done. That whole area around the library and that whole area is just going to be a great location, and I think people will be going there when it's all when that is all finished. So I think, despite the economic drawbacks that we have right now, they're doing a lot of positive things to keep us moving forward at this point.
Wow. Now that you're retired, what do you do with your time?
Well, besides doing this,
yeah, what's your other hat now? You got another hat going, and I've been asking this. I forgot to ask Trustee Seaman, and I know your answer to this, but I got to ask it. Cubs or Sox?
Sox.
Okay.
That's a given, and that leads to where my job is. I work security for a private company that works the ball games down at U.S. Cellular, and then we also have the opportunity to work Blackhawks, Bulls games, concerts, and other events that are going on at the United Center. So for someone who really likes sports, it's a great opportunity to earn some money and watch a ball game or two.
You get free. Boy, that's good. I got to get a job like that. Free admission on the ball games.
Nice.
Yeah, it is very nice. And brag a little bit about your nephews. I think it's kind of neat.
I have a couple nephews that played college football, and one played at Eastern Illinois and is now an assistant coach at Ball State University. And then his younger brother is been the starting left offensive tackle at Purdue for 4 years. He's a senior right now, so I think there's a good opportunity. If he stays healthy, he might play on Sundays next year. He's a big boy. He's 6'9" and 310, so he is.
Is he that big?
Yeah, he's and he plays left offensive tackle, so it's a good spot to be at. So yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
And what other hobbies or anything else that is of interest to you right now? And
I had more
off?
opportunity to play golf this year. That I'm getting better at it. I guess there was no place to go but up the way I play. But so I get to do that, and a lot of reading. I never had a chance to read before, and I've enjoyed reading a lot of books lately. So it's nice. It's a nice mix. It's nice to have the free time to work around the house and spend time that way. So.
Does the wife give you a few things to do around the house?
She does. My wife works. My wife Trish will be married 30 years in October. She works downtown, so there's constantly stuff for me to do, and I enjoy doing it. So that's the one nice thing about it, and it gives me an opportunity to see how the other half is, and do the work around the house.
Oh yeah. Well, there's always things to do.
Yes, sir.
Anything else in Tinley Park that comes to mind that makes it special in your mind? One last thing that really hits it off to the top.
I just think events like this, to allow the people to be able to see some of the ongoing things and ongoing projects that are going on. Discover Tinley. What a great opportunity to come out. That gets bigger and bigger every year. The parades seem to be drawing more and more people. I think what's going to be going on this Sunday, the events to mark that tragic event, I think they just seem to be doing all the right events to bring people into Tinley Park, and it's a great place to come and visit.
Well, good luck to you. We look forward to many years of service on the Board of Trustees of Tinley Park. Keep running, maybe hopefully unopposed. It might be kind of neat. But
would be neat.
It'd be kind of good to keep you going with that.
Yes,
but,
sir.
Thanks for your service with all, especially the years as a police officer.
My pleasure.
And I had the pleasure of working with you in the DARE program, which really took off quite a bit with what you did and some of the other officers have done. It's quite a very fantastic program in town here.
Yes, it is.
Based on a lot of things you did.
Thanks.
So thanks for your service and keep on going. So we've had today trustee, the elder statesman trustee Dave Seaman, who's been around for 30-some years, and T.J. Grady, who just recently got on the board now. So the trustees play a very important part in Tinley Park, and as you can see, they're one of the citizens. They do things that we all do and enjoy some of the things we all enjoy. A lot of things going on in Tinley Park. So see you next month with Discover Tinley.